Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today on Intuitive Living, we're going to talk about following your gut and following your heart and what that all means. This is Suzanne Arjona, and you're listening to Intuitive Living with Suzanne, where we are tuning in to our inner voices and taking life to the next level. So, what is it about living a limitless life that we're so afraid of? Why don't we take the trip, write the book, start the business? Why don't we listen to the inner voice that tells us over and over again what we really want to do? Well, basically, we're conditioned from a very young age to do all the right things, to follow the well worn path, the safe path. We're told to stay safe and be good, the path that will get us a good job, find a good relationship, live in a good place. But what if we feel good isn't really good enough? What if our hearts really want more? Or if not more, then just different? So, when I was in high school a very long time ago, my parents and guidance counselors and teachers all said that I should go into engineering when I went into college, specifically architectural engineering. Why? Well, I was artistic and I was good at math. I was logical. It was a perfect fit, right? But I knew that wasn't really what I wanted. I don't know how I knew. I didn't really know what I wanted. From a very early age, it's like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I have no idea. I never really had this vision of who or what I wanted to be when I grew up. But teaching always came to mind. Not like a school teacher, but back then I didn't really know what else there was. Anyway, despite scholarships and other positive signs and all these things that kind of pointed me in the direction to studying architectural engineering at Berkeley or Stanford, I took to the road and traveled around the country for 3 years instead. So the road trip wasn't exactly planned. And I've told very few people about this part of the story. It's actually kind of funny, but I look back and I'm like, wow, what was I thinking? But anyways, I was 18 and I had started a new job that was supposed to be like an entry-level graphic designer. I had assisted graphic designers throughout high school, and this was kind of like my first real job doing this. But after a week or so, I was only being given like secretarial and transcribing duties and things like that. And it just really wasn't feeling like I felt like they kind of hired me telling me I was going to do one thing, but knowing that I was really only going to do these other things. Um, so, anyways, the day I received my first paycheck, I went to my bank during lunch and I never went back to work. I never called him. I never said anything. I just disappeared, which again, in hindsight, I'm like, wow, what the heck was I doing? Anyways, that afternoon, I drove to Las Vegas. And that was the start of an unplanned 3-year journey. So over the years, I met a lot of people along the way. A couple of people I remember specifically to this day, people who introduced me to ideas like manifesting and kinesiology. And at age 20, that was my very first introduction to energy work. I'd never heard of any of this stuff before, and it was all brand new, and it was pretty fascinating. Um, so long story short, I did not become an architectural engineer or any type of engineer or a graphic designer. I sort of fell into accounting. I had taken temp jobs as I was traveling around the country. I studied business and accounting at university, and that was that. That was where my life was going, except that it wasn't. Um, I continued on my own to, study different types of energy work, divination, manifestation. I followed all of the self-help gurus. I was reading all the books, listening to all the tapes. We had like these big cassette tape albums back in the day. This is what caught my interest. And it still interests me today. Except now I get to share this knowledge with other people by teaching. Who knew that I'd be able to use all this stuff I enjoyed and totally lit me up and apply my desire for teaching? Okay. So You might be thinking, okay, what does all this have to do with intuitive living? Well, everything, pretty much. For much of my life, though I didn't know it at the time, I just followed my gut. I didn't plan on traveling around the country in a beat up old car for 3 years at 19 years old. Okay, it just sort of happened. I didn't plan on building a holistic health coaching business after leaving corporate when my twins were born. These things happened because I simply decided to do things that interested me. And the universe sort of provided the rest. So, every time something new came up that caught my interest, I would just dive right in and study it and just absorb as much as I could. Um, and it seemed like whatever path I was following at the time, the universe just started to tie everything all together. Okay, so things were looking really good. I had this, I'd started coaching and I was teaching Tai Chi and I was doing herbal classes and all of this little mishmash of things that I truly enjoyed, and they all somehow fit together into this great little business. Um, I wasn't getting rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I was having a blast and I really enjoyed my life. Then came a time in 2011 when I traded all of that for the security of a management position. So let me back up a little bit here. I had picked up a part-time retail job to keep a little steady income alongside my coaching and teaching. They asked me at every review if I wanted to join the management team. So I was a little bit older than probably most of the other retail workers there. And I guess they felt that that made me a little bit more stable. Little did they know. But anyways, each time I would say, no, thank you. I really love what I'm doing. And, this is a great little side gig. But thank you very much anyways. Then the year before my boys started college, they asked again. And this time they were playing on the college tuition and really kind of pushing my buttons that way. So I agreed to give it 2 years. And if it wasn't for me, I'd step down. And I told them that flat out. I knew all along that this was not the path I wanted to go down. It really wasn't for me, but they had really played up that whole college tuition thing. And I knew in the back of my mind that I probably should have more to put towards all of that. But anyway, so I knew all along that this wasn't for me. And so, of course, 2 years later, I stepped down. And at that point, I had no business to go back to. I was starting from scratch. And I'd been in that safety zone, so to speak, for so long that I had forgotten how to follow my heart and my gut. I was wrapped up in making ends meet and trying to feel secure still. And it took me a long time to get back into what I call freedom mode. But finally I did. It took quite a few years. And I took a trip that I'd always wanted to take. And that was to Machu Picchu, Peru. Now, there was nothing special about that particular destination. It was just somewhere I'd always wanted to go. And I decided I wanted to take that trip. I didn't have anybody who wanted to go with me or who could go with me, who was able to. I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. I'd have to take a couple weeks off of work and find someone to watch my cats, but I did it. I did it anyways. I went alone and experienced the most freedom that I'd had in years, and I never looked back. So that was the start for me of rediscovering my intuition, following my gut, and following my heart to do things that I enjoy doing just because I wanted to. Okay? The more I did this, the more the universe showed me new paths to follow. And so here I am today, back to writing, back to coaching and teaching, all of the things that brought me so much joy before. And I'm, redoing all of that now and, putting all that back out there. And it just, everything feels right again. Now it all looks a little bit different now than it did before. So much is online now and teaching platforms have evolved. But I'm back to teaching and enjoying every minute of it. Okay. Now, had I known back in 2011 what I know now, I would have never traded the business I had for that so-called security. That's not to say that I didn't learn anything from the experience, because I did. It wasn't a mistake. Um, I guess I feel like it's never a mistake if you learn something from it. But what I hope to leave you with today is the permission to follow your intuition. Go with your gut and with your heart, and don't be fooled into finding security, whatever that means, doing something that you know really doesn't resonate with you. Intuitive living is all about listening to the feelings and voices that are guiding us each day in everything we do. So that is my message for you this week. Next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about actually making the choices and taking the chances when you do start listening to your gut and to your heart and really listening to that intuition. So I hope you'll stay tuned. And meanwhile, until next week, I wish you the brightest blessings, and I'll see you again next time.